All right, let's do it. So, welcome everyone. Um, Either if you're live with us or if you're watching the recording, it'll be available. And we are really hoping to add value and share a little bit more about um, the fractional advantage. So, how you actually can use fractional leadership to scale smarter. Um, Still, even though you have a lean team or maybe a tight budget, you can still work with senior leadership if you consider fractional work. So I'm so thankful that Katie accepted my invitation to be here today. We connected first on LinkedIn. I stumbled upon her posts and I thought, wow, that's someone who is authentically expressing her work and what she does. So it definitely caught my attention. So we started just talking and then exploring how we could partner up to enhance our work. So welcome, Katie, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for asking me. Yeah, it was funny when you reached out to me initially, I think over some content, and I think you just commented on my honest positioning, I think you called it. And I was so happy because I was I am still in my authentic content creation era, but I was really like full charged on being bold and being like authentically me and having that show in my LinkedIn content. Life and work has got in the way of the velocity of that just recently, but yeah, certainly when we first connected, I was going quite hard on the content output there. So yeah, I loved that you reached out to me and then we resonated over many different things. So super excited for this chat today.
Yay, awesome. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about what we do exactly throughout the presentation, but just to quick intro. um, I work as a fractional CMO and growth strategist at my own agency, 001 the agency. Been working on launching this over the past months of this year, transitioning from consultation model to actually starting something with a team with more people collaborating and helping me deliver everything that clients expect from marketing. So I come in with the strategic helping me to create a roadmap, to know to align their business goals with their marketing strategies, and then from there leading team, assessing their resources, their marketing structure, to then come up with a plan that's actually actionable and measurable, but also realistic in terms of implementation, respecting their budgets. So that's my main challenge here, is to put all those pieces together and then bring the right people to execute those plans, to implement those plans, either in-house team if the clients have an in-house team, or bringing my own resources, or going after other outsourced resources when necessary to make that happen. So that's basically me. And Katie, if you'd like, please.
Yeah, thank you. So I really similar, which I guess is why we're having this conversation. But again, I'm working with the businesses that I'm working with, my main aim and the value add that I'm doing there is breaking that main strategic goal and the bigger picture vision, breaking that down into the day-to-day, but on an operational side. So I was in-house COO in a marketing agency for four-ish years, until around 6 months ago when I went fully in on the fractional side. So yeah, I'm absolutely loving the view from this side, from this angle, and yeah, just really enthusiastic about being able to help multiple businesses and multiple founders realize their bigger picture vision, realize what is their North Star, and then how does that break down into the day-to-day operations? How does they hold themselves and their teams accountable for staying on track, doing the things that matter, and pushing forward each day to hit those goals?
This is awesome. This is actually the reason why we're speaking, right?
Yeah.
Because me, as I start the agency, I'm realizing, okay, I actually don't love doing the operations of the agency, and I would definitely and I will definitely hire someone as Katie or her when it gets to the time where I need to hand over the operations to someone so that I can focus on on the things that I do best. So I think that's a perfect it'll be a perfect example of how marketing and operations collaborate.
Yeah.
And the perfect example of how a business owner, founder, or CEO, or someone who is actually in the executive level don't need to be taking care of the operations themselves. That's unless they love it and that's what they do, right?
Yeah.
But otherwise, when they're really passionate about the vision and taking the vision out there to the world, and then really working with delivering what they love to deliver, then operations should be taken care of.
Yeah, for
Someone
sure.
else. Okay, so I'll share this presentation here, and let's get started, and we'll learn more about how, like, specific examples and how we can actually help businesses. So the goal of today's session is we have a few goals, but our main goal is to show how your business can grow with fractional leadership. Not every business needs full-time leaders for every area. Some businesses, they can they should actually have fractional leaders who can come in and help with specific projects or with specific areas, but that doesn't call for a full-time hire. And that's what we're going to talk about a lot today. So number one, we want to empower you and your business with fractional leadership knowledge. I think this is something that, the fractional work itself, it's a buzzword, kind of. Everyone, or a lot of people who have been working as consultants, they have been transitioning to a fractional model. And I think, the more informed everyone is about what this entails and how this can actually benefit businesses, and when it's actually, the time for a business to hire a fractional leader, and when it's time to transition to a full-time leader, which is also something we can cover today. So you'll gain actionable insights from industry experts, in this case us, Katie as an operations on the operations side, and me as on the marketing side. We've been doing, I've been doing marketing and she's been doing operation for years now. We're just shifting to this fractional perspective where we can help multiple companies grow. And then, of course, we'd like to address unique challenges and questions if you have some. And even if you're watching this, the recording, feel free to, text us, to contact us, to ask your questions. We're more than happy to answer, regardless your industry, what you do. Even if you're a growth professional or an operations professional, we're super happy to connect with other professionals as well that are in the same industry as us, and build our networks. Okay, so I'd like to start with, for you to have one question in mind throughout this, this webinar, and that's, what's one operational or marketing challenge you'd love to solve in 2025? We sometimes, think about so many, so many challenges and things we would like to tackle, but it all starts with one. So throughout the presentation, think about this one thing and how you envision this thing being solved with our help or without our help. Anyway, I hope that, with the content that you'll see here today, you'll be able to gain some insights on how that challenge could be solved through marketing or operations. So, sorry. What is actually fractional leadership, right? So I think that is the first thing for us to clarify. And so fractional leadership provides executive level expertise when and where you need it without the commitment of a full-time hire. So basically, you can hire us or a fractional professional either on a project basis or as a part-time leader who will be continuously and consistently working with your team and with your leadership, but on a part-time basis, meaning maybe one day of the week, maybe a couple of hours per day. It really depends on how you make the work arrangements and what works best for you and the professional. But the key word here is flexible, right? And that's what fractional is about being flexible, cost effective. So you pay only for the expertise you need, basically. Sometimes you're a startup, you're a small business, and you don't have the budget or the need for a full-time leader, but you could use high-level expertise in your team to make things progress faster, with more quality, more effectively, delivering more results and better results and improving your processes throughout the time, but you just don't need that full time. So flexible, cost effective, and high impact, because usually those professionals are used to to hit the ground running, as I said it. We get in, we understand where you're at, where you've been, and then we just start taking actions and implementing right from the beginning, which makes it very fast to pivot and to take gradual steps to improve, and it's usually a shorter period compared to a traditional hire. So how fractional leadership enables leading teams to succeed. So let's say you're a startup or you're a small business, and you have a lean team. You have like maybe one or two marketing resources, or maybe none, and maybe you don't have anyone actually taking care of operations. Maybe just an assistant. So how do you make that work using a fractional leader? And here's what we bring. We bring targeted expertise. So, we'll bring the specialized skills that will address the gaps. So your team can focus on your strengths, and the fractional leader work is to assess your resources, assess your team, assess your strengths, and also assess the gaps. And then that professional should be either, if it's on a higher level, they'll be filling the gaps, or they will be planning and taking actions on how you can fill that gap with either a tool or a human resource, a new team member, or maybe a contractor. So it's on us to figure that out and how to find out how to fill those gaps. Strategic prioritization. So we help. Once the leader has a big vision, a big picture of where we want to go, we will help the team and the leaders focus on high impact work. Either regardless if it's the CEO or an assistant, we'll be helping them focus on the high impact tasks, identifying those priorities, which will drive growth and efficiency. Streamlined processes, so implement systems and workflows that boost efficiency. So it's not only about prioritizing, but also building the step-by-step, or the workflows that will allow those processes to be repeatable and scalable. So that could could mean also implement an automation or a tool that will reduce manual work. So, there are lots of ways that we could come in and then prevent those lean teams from burnout by simply applying those processes, those tools, and so on. And we do all that by having a clear strategic direction. So, providing a roadmap that aligns with the team efforts with the business goals. So everyone would be working cohesively toward measurable success. So it is the high level work that usually a CEO or a founder or someone who is on the top level is trying to cover everything by himself or herself. But there's so much more than a high level leader or a CEO or a founder needs to be doing, that they can't possibly be everywhere and hold everyone accountable and make sure that everyone is focused on the right things. So that's where we come in, each one on our own areas of expertise. Steins, Katie, if you want to talk and if you have an insight or something throughout the presentation,
thank you.
Raise your hand and let me know.
Thank you.
You'll soon have the word. And then signs that a business needs fractional leadership. So, when do you know that it's time to bring a fractional leader in? And usually you look like the guy on the picture here, just worried about so many challenges, so many things that you're juggling on the day-to-day. That's probably, your personal hint that you do need someone to share that workload. But basically, you have overstretched leadership. So you or other leaders on your team, they're unable to focus on growth. They're overstretched. They're trying to be everywhere and not being effective in most of the areas because of that. Expertise gaps. I think that's a key one, because that's what usually holds back key projects and strategic initiatives. Right. So an example on marketing, sometimes we do have an operational team that does the marketing basics, right? So they know how to implement a social media campaign, and they know how to, send email campaigns and maybe they even maybe run ads. But who is actually connecting the dots? Right. And that's where a fractional leader comes in, to make sure that all of those campaigns are not randomly being executed, but they are tied together, they're integrated, they are cohesive, and they're, selling the right product the right way, talking to the right audience. So this is where, you have a higher level leader looking at everything and making sure it's all connected. Katie, I don't know if you want to maybe give an example on operations, how that would look like.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to what you were just saying there, actually. Just for me, in my experience, being that one person that has a view over, when it comes to operations in my role, it's literally a view over every other part of the business. Like, there's not another role really within a business, unless you're very lucky and you have someone, with a really key, really eagle eye, that wants to get involved in every other part of the business. That's normally the operations person. So if you don't have a dedicated operations person, you have silos, essentially. Even if you have a leadership team that are heading up their different departments, probably there's not one person apart from the CEO, and at some point the CEO can't have a view on all of this anymore, but there's not really one person that is bridging those gaps and having that overall vision. And this is the thing that I always come back to. It's like being that thread that pulls everything in with each other. And maybe we'll touch on it a little bit later as well, but even, for example, like with a marketing strategy, if you didn't have an ops person, or something that I've been involved in before, for example, is to be the ops person that, yes, even though there's a marketing manager or leader and they're executing on the strategy, there's also a delivery team that have very close insights, right, to the client, or a sales team that have very close insights to what the people that they're actually speaking to day in, day out are saying. And even though it sounds obvious, from a workflow point of view and an operational point of view, they could be two or three very easily separate siloed working areas where they're each doing their own thing and they're doing it very, very well. But to have that expert overview of somebody that can draw all of those dots together, that's the game changer where you're really going to accelerate getting towards your goals. Because otherwise it's like, I can't think of the analogy now, but there's something like the left arm doesn't know what the right arm's doing, for example. And I really feel like if you don't have that dedicated person, yes, it's the CEO or the founder, like I said, they can only have visibility on it for so long. So until you bring in that strategic operations person, you're going to have things missing, right? You're going to have things that don't quite add up, or they seem a little bit disjointed. And as you were saying a second ago, it might not be that you need that straight away. Like, you really don't need a senior operations person or an executive level operations person full time for a long while. But what you do need quite early on, in my experience, is the knowledge and the experience and the skill set of somebody that's done it before. They can do it quickly, and they can deliver that high impact. So for me, it really opens up doors, I think, for a lot of founders and a lot of companies where they need the knowledge, they need the skill set, they need the experience, but maybe they don't need it full time right now, or maybe they can't afford it full time right now. And it really opens that door to accelerate bringing on that kind of talent, but not having to tie yourself down to the full time or to the commitment.
And absolutely. And I think that what you just said actually takes us to the next point, which is scaling challenges. Because until you're able to connect those dots, right? Connect departments, connect the communication, streamline the communication between sales, product, and marketing, for example, and our customer success. Until you figure that out, you will have scaling challenges. Mm-hmm. Just because, I've seen that a lot, where marketing is doing their own thing. They may be doing what they think is a great job. They're delivering leads, and then sales is saying those leads are not qualified. Mm-hmm. I can't sell to those leads because X, Y, and Z. And then, customer success is saying, I don't know, sales is bringing clients that are not actually, retaining. It's really hard to retain those clients because sales is bringing the wrong clients in. And that becomes like a snowball, right? Yeah. And that's the role of the operations, to actually sit everyone in the same room and say, okay, let's talk and let's align and let's focus on the right goals, on the same goals, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? The goals should be the same. We're all working toward the same business vision, and that's the operations or the COO role to actually to be the one that actually sustains that vision along with the CEO, of course. The CEO is the one who has the vision, mm-hmm. and the COO is like the one who is actually advocating for that vision with the entire team and make sure everyone is working toward that same goal, right? So that's when you are able to align everyone, every department, and then you will be able to scale more efficiently.
Exactly. And then I guess that comes on to budget constraints too, because again, I'm selfishly just constantly speaking from the operational side now, but I guess we'll both have chance to speak about our own niche. But yeah, with the budget thing as well, like it's having that person that has an eye over the budgets for each department, for example, and what you were saying there about everyone going towards the same goal. In operations, for me, it's also that like course correct thing, and I think about it as like, you know, I don't know whether they have this in other places, but when you're doing bowling as a kid and you bowl the ball and they have the bumpers, right, and it stops the ball from going down the side so that you can hit all the skittles. It's that a lot of the time it's that, because it's okay, marketing wants to do this and they want to use the budget for that. Okay, but sales have already planned to do this and they need to use the budget for that, or I know sales aren't using their budget for this, so it can go into marketing. But actually, I know that if we execute on this next week, the leads are probably going to come in next month, and I know that the fulfillment team can't fulfill that. And there's normally only me that has all of those bits of information. So it can turn catastrophic quite quickly. Either it can turn catastrophic, or it just pulls so many people out of their own zone of genius, right? Like you were saying, metaphorically getting everyone in the same room. Actually having a COO stops having to constantly bring people physically into the same room, and bringing them out of their genius and bringing them out of their seat where they need to be executing on things that they're an expert at. It actually allows that one person almost just to be like tying in all of the dots, not relaying information, but I guess just making sure the information is flowing exactly where it needs to be flowing and is getting to everybody without everybody having to be involved in every single conversation. You know, to have that trustworthy executive team member is fundamental for that, actually, which is probably a fact that goes a little, you know, untalked about sometimes as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, that scales down to, you know, to the areas as well, just as you said, like you'd be, you know, the operations is the big picture, the umbrella, what we call, you know, it's what is holding the budget, holding the vision, and holding, you know, the communication across departments. And then in each department you'll have then, you know, a marketing. Okay, here's marketing's budget, and now what? Right? What will we do with it? Where we'll allocate those resources, and then that's where, you know, having in mind that business vision, that big goal in mind, and knowing what sales needs, knowing, you know, what kinds of customers are the ones that are more likely to stay for longer or to, you know, upsell. So that's where, you know, marketing, looking at this big picture, looking at data. We haven't talked about data yet, but that's definitely something, you know, that, you know, marketing is usually the one who collects the data for everyone else, especially including operations. So, you know, we each have our own I don't know how to call it, like our own items to our own decisions to make.
Yeah.
But as long as we're all communicating, and as we're talking, like if you're a small business, if you're a startup, you're going to market, you know, maybe you have an investment, you have a limited budget, or, you know, you've been in market for so long and you are established, but then, you know, with all this new technology, you're lost on how to actually step up and stay in the competition, because everyone else is doing that. Everyone else is using tools to automate their systems, is you know, is hiring part-time professionals to scale where they can. And so how can you do that as well without, you know, just having to hire someone else to be in office with you? Sometimes it's not, you know, necessary to have someone in office, and that's, you know, that also cuts down your expenses. So, you know, there are lots of ways that a small business, a startup, or even an established business can actually take advantage of that model of work. And then here, actually, it brings us to this, you know, comparison of, you know, fractional leadership or full-time leadership, and how do you assess which is right for you? So it really depends on your business, where you're at in your growth journey. But most of the times, a fractional leadership will be definitely a great fit for a startup, for a small business that is trying to grow. And when I say small business, I mean, anywhere between, I don't know, maybe 500K to 5 million, or even a bit further ahead, maybe up to 10 million. We could still see the advantage of hiring a fractional, even if that fractional is almost part-time, just but still, you still don't need a full-time. So I would say that's basically the business structure that calls for fractional, and then full-time leadership is like, okay, I'm becoming maybe a bigger company, medium to bigger sized company. I have, I don't know, more than 100 employees. Clear processes established already. So you really need someone full-time there to be in the long term, to be all the time everywhere. That's when you're making that transition, in my point of view. It really depends on your industry too. So basically, fractional leadership comparing flexibility to scale up or down based on your business needs, while on the full time it's a long-term commitment, less flexible. You can't hire and unhire people all the time. It has huge costs implicated. So and then on the flexibility side of fractional, I can talk about this later on too, but it really calls for well-designed contracts. So because you also don't want someone who's fractional and then you're just you have different people all the time coming in and out to execute that fractional work. No, you do need continuity, you need consistency, you need someone who will know your business, who will advocate for your business, who will think long term about your business as well. So when we talk about flexibility, it's not about, I can hire and then fire whenever I'm pleased, whenever I'm not, whenever I want. It's about building a long-term partnership for growth, and then eventually these fractional, either you'll make a great offer and maybe this person will be tempted to accept to become full-time, or this person can help you transition from fractional to hiring someone and onboarding a full-time leader, if that's the case, that will inherit what has already been built, instead of having someone start fresh, having to figure out how things work. So that's how ideally a business and a fractional leader should work and collaborate together to actually help the business grow and have continuity on the work. And then, cost effectiveness, of course, you have someone who is a fraction of the time working for you. So you're paying a fraction of the cost as well. Not to say, all the additional costs like, benefits, bonuses, hiring, training, employee overhead, like taxes and everything that you have to deal with in your hiring an employee. Usually that's not something you do with a fractional leader. Usually we work as contractors. We do a contracting or consulting assignment, work arrangement. So, it's different. It can cost a little bit more maybe per hour, but in the end of the day, you're spending a lot less money and you're still getting the benefits of the professional for as much time as you need. You can still negotiate performance-based additionals. That's always, welcome, because we're helping a business grow. So, it can be expected to have that discussion about performance-based, because our goal is to help your business grow as well as or as much as a full-time leader. So, but still, it's maybe, still advantages for it's actually, I think it's still advantages for a business too. When we talk about a full-time leader, we're talking about 150K plus a year, depending on the COO or CMO, and in which country you are. Of course, we're talking about US dollars, but it could go, but it starts from there usually. And then longer onboarding for full-time leaders, which could potentially delay in getting traction a little bit. When you're talking about a fractional, it's like immediate access to expertise. It's like a consultation process, so we immediately get our hands on and start our processes to get things running really quickly. And then the contract arrangements, as I said, traditional versus something a bit more innovative, and we'll have to work on a well-designed contract that will benefit and protect both parts, because it's not a freelance thing. It's really about being there for the business, and then also trusting the professional that is getting into your business, so that this professional can implement the steps, because we can't implement everything at once. So Kelly, is there anything you'd like to say about this balance between our
I don't think so. I think you've pretty much covered it all there. I think like you were saying about the agreements and the contracts, that is quite a tricky one, especially has been for me, where I haven't with some of my first clients, like I didn't really have this contract in place, or I was having like more just a very basic freelancer contract in place. But I really will push now, if I can, for some kind of agreement to be put in place, especially moving forward, because just something more than the nothing, I guess I'm saying, because for me personally, it is an investment in the company for me. Like, yes, we're fractional, and yes, we're not getting all the benefits that the employees get, but I only want to work with clients that I am having an impact with, and I do take a vested interest in their company. Like, I'm not just kind of in and out, and once I'm out and the doors close, I'm not thinking about it anymore. Maybe that's to my detriment, but I'm setting my business up in a way where I do have capacity and time to really put my energy and my effort and my care into these businesses. Like, I don't see it as a super cold transactional thing just because it's fractional. I don't see it as like something that's not worth a contract or worth a trusting relationship. Actually, more than the contract, it is about the relationship. It's about trust and transparency, and working with people from both sides that do want to have an impact. Like, we share the same goals. I want to work with you because I want to have an impact, a positive impact on your business. So I just wanted to really point out that, like, that doesn't only come from hiring full-time people and giving them health insurance. Like, we still, as a fractional executive, like, I still have that mindset. I only want to work with people where I can positively impact your business, and I will, take it upon myself to do that.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. When I started consulting, I wouldn't do contracts as well, and I think everyone does that when we're starting. And then once we start realizing that it's not only us, that we're not only losing a client if they decide not to continue for any reasons, but they're also losing their investment in us. So it really, for me, and as you said, like, I really want to work with people who resonate with my values, with my communication style. I'm super open and transparent with my clients, and I really expect to work with clients who appreciate that honesty, that things don't happen, like, especially in marketing. It's usually really easy for clients to expect fast results in terms of, like, getting the right leads within, a week or even a month after, marketing, or, like someone started doing, running campaigns. And it doesn't work like that, right? It takes experimenting. Marketing is all about experimenting, for example. So when we just started working with a client, there, even though we take actionable steps immediately, even though we can be maybe faster in doing our onboarding or researching the company and understanding, like it requires a huge amount of energy from our sides to actually be able to do the research, the proper research on the company, understand how it works. Like, since we're working with so many different niches, for example, especially on marketing, like we were not focused on one niche. So it takes a huge amount of effort to understand that niche, to understand that business, that industry, the competition, and so on and so on. And then so you're investing, you're paying for that, right? You're paying as the same you would be paying for a full-time leader who comes in. They need some time to just understand, where where to start.
Yeah.
Right. And then I got distracted because I saw I saw a question. We'll cover that in a bit. So yes, it's like an investment from the both sides, and if something is not working, the first step should not be let's stop here, unless it's of course something very that hurts your values, and then maybe you need a more serious conversation. But if something is not working in terms of expectations, that's what communication is for, right? So be transparent about expectations, about what's not working, and then ask questions, and be I love when my clients ask questions and tell me they didn't understand what I'm doing, because that gives me the opportunity to exchange and to learn from their perspective. They are the ones who know their clients and their business way better than I do. But also to explain and to educate the clients on how things work on marketing, or how, why we're doing what we're doing. So, and I think that kind of answers the question, or starts to answer the question on how we deal with the client expectation of the work. And I'll give the word to Katie in a minute. I'll just, since I'm already in that, so that she can, bring from her perspective. But it starts with the beginning, having a clear conversation about expectations, about where that person, that visionary, sees the business going. We want to understand where you want to go. We want to understand how much you want to sell. We want to understand to who you want to sell. We want to understand, so having that first conversation, and actually investing the time on informing ourselves on, what the client wants for the business, and how, we work on our end. On my case, how we implement marketing. And we don't start marketing by, launching a campaign on week 1. We start, we do marketing by doing a proper diagnosis in the beginning, and then coming up with a roadmap, with a strategy, understanding their industry. So it's all about respecting the process that it takes to deliver a proper work, to deliver results that will be actually measurable, sustainable, and that can be, that can grow throughout the time. So it's being transparent, basically. That's the way that I usually that we usually deal with the client expectation, is to being very transparent about what's realistic and what's not realistic, to expect from what we can do in terms of marketing with the budget that we have. Sometimes, budget is a constraint. So we have to be very creative to generate results with low budgets, for example. for marketing. If we don't have a huge budget, we can't be investing in ads a lot, for example, right? Or we just do ads. If we decide that's the right strategy, we'll just do ads for a while until it's generating enough revenue so that we can expand and grow to other channels. So it's really about taking the time to evaluating, and then being realistic about what we can do with what we have, and then making sure that is clear, and told and transparent. Katie, do you wanna cover something in there to answer the question?
Yeah, pretty similar to you. And to be honest with you, Fernanda, it's funny because I think me and you, they're both very similar sections of the business where it's quite difficult to say it's done, like tick, So I feel like I don't know whether I'd rather be in operations or marketing from that aspect, because it's like, what's the deliverable for operations? That's why it's very difficult for me to write that in content, for example, like work with me and you'll get this. It's not a set deliverable. And it's the same with marketing, right? It's like, you can't say work with me and I'll guarantee you get this. Like, it's marketing. The whole thing is that it's an experiment, and it's a growth period, and it's an investigation of like finding out what works and what steers us closer and more succinctly towards the goal. So yeah, I think, just to try not to take too much time upon it, but yeah, just to echo what you were saying, but also again, I think for me, this comes back to how I personally am and how I will want to be very transparent and very clear and be aligned on the goals from the start. Like, yes, you could ask me to come in and set your project management system up. I'm not going to, if that's the brief, that's not a job for me. Like, I'm not just going to come in and set your project management, your ClickUp up, and then say like, I'm your fractional COO and, I'll help you hit your goals by doing that. What I need to know is, what's the end goal? What's the overarching strategy that we're all working towards? And then how does operations have an impact on that? And so as far as how do we deal with expectations is concerned, for me, it's really breaking that down, which I think is part of operations anyway. Like, I couldn't do my job if I didn't do this, but breaking that goal down into the quarterly, monthly milestones that we need to hit. And then literally just measuring yourself on them. Like, I want to work towards something and I want to see whether it gets done or not. Like, I'm not just going to be coasting along and hoping for the best just because I've, ticked a few boxes on what they say operations should be. With most of my clients, I'm writing a roadmap, to at least for the beginning, because it's so varied. You don't know what stage the company's at when you go in there. You don't know what they're going to need. And I have a sort of framework, more or less, that I need to know, have you got this part, this part, this part, and this part? And if not, I'll create it for you and I'll be the one to join it all together and manage it. So in the first instance, it's just making sure we've got all of those pieces, but then moving on from there, it's then like, okay, well, now what do we need to achieve in quarter one? What's the goal, and normally with operations, it's tied to the goal for every single department and then the bigger picture goal. And how am I personally having an impact on those things? Like, for me, it's just to be very transparent and upfront and make sure that we're very aligned on what we say. What does success look like to the person that I'm working for? And for me, making sure that I'm confident that I can get there, and then following the roadmap to get there with pivots here and there where you need to, and agility all the way. But for me, it's just being very accountable, holding myself accountable, and making sure that the client that I'm working with knows exactly what's expected of me, and then making sure that we're constantly checking in and saying, yes, we did that, yes, we did that, yes, we did that. Maybe sometimes it takes longer than we thought because of this, or maybe sometimes we go a different way because of that, but what's the actual thing that we're aiming for? And then just the constant reporting, feedback loop, checking in, accountability of whether we're actually getting there or not.
Yeah, I totally see that. Especially in operations, it's like you're actually putting all the pieces together, but the results actually depend on every other department. You depend on marketing doing their part, sales doing their part, and product and customer. Like, you depend on other departments and other people to be successful. And then so it's making sure that you are communicating with everyone and making sure, okay, where does your responsibility stops and where the others, the other departments start.
Yeah.
Right. So I definitely see the challenge there. I did work with a few, COOs or operation managers in the past, and I did see their frustration when that, when they were constantly taking the hit for the lack of commitment or accountability from others. So that's definitely I see as a challenge, and that it has to be, unfortunately, or well, it's part of the job to communicate that to the leadership as well, right, to the client, to make sure you're also protecting your side. All right, so we still have a few slides to go, and also and I think actually it's actually all this answer and all this takes us to the next, how we help individually, you as a fractional COO. So dive into it and let's see if we can cover that.
Yeah, I do think we've covered a lot of it, which is a good job, because I can see we're well over time. But definitely the main things we've got here on the slides, to be honest, a huge piece. And again, I'm always thinking about, like, am I portraying this in the content that I'm putting out, and do people understand what I'm doing? It really is that accountability piece, especially for the type of clients that I'm working with right now, where they're solo first-time founders. Maybe they don't have a leadership team perhaps yet, or they don't have this like confident person. They're like second in command, or like right hand person, where they are having strategic decisions with. Their team are doing absolutely fantastically, and the management of that and the development of that is great. But on a personal level, almost like a personal level, who is that person that's working strategically with the founder if they're a solo founder? And that does fall on my lap a lot of the time. And if I'm honest, it's one of the pieces that I love the most. But yeah, just really holding the founder accountable for the things that they need to do. Again, keeping them aligned, course correcting, helping them to prioritize, and just being able to have those high level strategic decisions with them, which I find in a lot of cases it's missing, and it's so impactful. So that's a huge piece. And then obviously there's the kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, but I think when I say operations, a lot of people, if they don't know what it is, they think, oh yeah, it's the processes and the SOPs. Of course, that's a thing. But honestly, like I don't want to say it's a very small part of the thing, but it's having the high level view over that. But of course, it's making sure that you're creating these systems that do scale. So like I think you talked about earlier, the scalability factor, and it's like, yes, there could be other people on the team that are creating the systems for their specific department, but are they really thinking of a bigger picture vision? Are they thinking of how that impacts other departments? Are they thinking of how that will impact the business in 1 year's time when they've reached that next stage of growth? So it's really just having that, again, I think we've already touched on it, but having that strategic vision with the long-term goal, accountability with the founder, and a strategic partnership with the founder, and then breaking that down into the day-to-day. How can we get there the most effectively, in the most streamlined way, whilst keeping all of the team happy and functioning and executing as they should be in their own way, whilst having your eye on a year in the future and making sure it's all scalable and not going to break within 6 months when things change again. So there's quite a lot to cover, but that's why we love it.
Yeah, and that's why there are different talent for every person. Every person has a different talent, because I totally see the value and the need, and while that's not something I would be focusing on, but rather on something else, or with a different perspective. And I think you actually kind of answered already, but I don't know if you want to complement. I do have this question for you, like, how do you help lean teams stay productive?
I'm like a broken record, which is good because it means it's a very quick answer. But what's the North Star, right? Like, I see so many times people doing busy work. Everyone's burnt out. They've hired someone else and they're still burnt out. The founder's delegated more work, but still hasn't got time on their hands. The team have optimized or automated a process, but they're still spending the same amount of hours on the process. Why? What's your are the things that you're doing moving you towards that North Star, moving you towards the goal that you've set, the monthly goal, which ties into the quarterly goal, which ties into the annual goal? everything has to have a why, and everything has to tie into this bigger picture goal. So that's how do you help them stay productive? Make sure they know the why that they're doing a thing, and measure it, like we said earlier. How do you deal with the client expectation of your work? It's the measurement piece. EOS is a great example of this. I can't remember, I think we spoke about it before, but it's an operating system. It's very well known. It's something that I take parts of in my work as well because I love it. It's such an efficient, straightforward system. And one of the features that they have in that is the scorecard, where it's a weekly scorecard, and each team member, ideally, it's tricky, but each team member has a number, and they're held accountable for that number. Week in, week out, or month in, month out, if it needs to be. But even not to follow strictly those rules. If every department has a figure that they're trying to hit each month, because we know if we hit that, that's getting us towards the goal. That's how you stay productive, because you can't go off track then. It's having the intention to do it, but then holding the team accountable to doing it, and holding each other accountable to doing it. And that's how you prioritize. If you haven't got a goal, if you haven't got someone checking in, are we hitting it there? Are we there yet? Then if there's no accountability, you're not going to get there. So I would say North Star, so that you can prioritize, and then accountability.
I totally see that helping marketing, stay focused. It's really, really common on marketing when, we're running especially if you're running a small marketing team where you have one person wearing multiple hats. It's so easy to get distracted with either, someone sending a new tool
Yeah.
or, a department leader asking for, a new deliverable, a new collateral, a new, presentation, or just, can you just do this design for me? Or can you just do this or that? And then we're like, okay, so and then having that accountability system to actually be able to say no, and, okay, I'm sorry, this does not align with my goal. I'm working on this right now. I need to focus on what I'm working toward. Does this align with that? If yes, okay, let's figure out how I can manage this. If it doesn't align with the goal, then I'm not the right person to ask.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think that's where people have the tools to say no's, and even to think about what they're asking others, to do and to focus on. So definitely, I see that as a tool. And I would love to have someone else focusing on actually taking care of that, because when you think about a fractional CMO, and then we come to my role, it's not much about doing that, of managing the projects, the tasks, like it can be, but if you're talking about a fractional, you maybe don't want to use your fractional CMO to project management. You maybe want to use a fractional CMO for strategic marketing goals, right? So you really want your fractional CMO to be focused on the things that we see here, like optimizing the marketing funnel. So the fractional CMO is actually the one who has the big picture of the marketing, and not the operations of marketing, but actually this strategy that is being implemented and is being effective or not, right? So those are two different things. And that's why I would love to always have a COO partnering up to make sure we are both, doing our own thing, in our zone of genius. So that's where, I could help as a fractional CMO, is to actually focus on marketing, meaning, optimizing the marketing funnels, looking at the customer journeys, how we can improve conversion rates. So I'm always looking at data. If there isn't a data system implemented, that is, one of the first things I do is it's amazing. It's incredible because, as a marketing professional, I find it, I'm surprised every time it happens, and it happens very often, that I start working with a client that has been in their industry for, 10 years. Their website is 10 years old, and they don't have Google Analytics installed. It happens more often than I would like to see, because it really, I mean, you have 10 years of opportunity of data collecting just, thrown out the window. So, the minute I come in and like I realize there's no analytics, I'm like, okay, if we're not building a new website, of course, because that's usually what, the first thing we do when we're starting with a new client, when they don't have a proper website with good user experience, etc. So that is part of our diagnosis, is to analyze, and that's part of what I do, is to analyze, okay, is this website serving the business, or is this just a virtual card? If it's just a virtual card, then no, it's not serving the business. So and part of that is, it's not only having a nice looking website, but it's also having all the systems behind, what we call the back end, or what's happening behind the scenes of a website. It's to evaluate everything that happens, or if nothing happens, then, well, we know the problem. We know where to start, is to actually implement those systems that run on behind the scenes to support strategic decisions, to support measuring ROI, for example, or to support understanding the customer journey. So, and this is something that our team does as well. No, I don't do this alone. I do that with the UX, the user experience designer, that will understand the marketing journey, that will evaluate conversion rates, and and that is why my model of fractional CMO is not only like, I don't work alone, because I'm not a technical expert in every single area of marketing. That would be, I mean, that's too much for a human being, I would say. Maybe, the AI tools, they're getting there. But, as a single person, I can't be an expert in every single area of marketing, but I do understand them, and I do understand how they should be working together. So, and, so that is why I bring in the best people to my team, and they are part of my CMO team, right? So when I'm evaluating all of these things, marketing funnels, the data, the data behind it, the campaigns that they are, executing or not, it's not only me, it's a team of people, of experts in their areas, who will provide me their diagnosis. And then I will compile into one report to our client with saying, okay, here are the areas that you need improvement. And this is why your business is, maybe not generating the result you want, and so on. So we start with that. That's the top of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg is like actually looking at everything, and then, okay, now that we have the big picture of what actually exists, now let's build a strategic growth roadmap. And that's where, and then it complements the big picture of the business, right? So the COO will bring, okay, these are our top goals. This is, we'll figure out what are the top goals for marketing. And then once we know that is aligned with the business vision, we know the top goals for marketing. From there, we do the milestones for, okay, how we'll get there. So first things first, right? Sometimes we need a website before we do anything else, because that's where most people go nowadays, right? To check your business, with some exceptions. But, so it's really like building the pieces and then putting that all into a timeline, into a roadmap, and like implementation phases. So that is what this strategic growth roadmap is about. And then lead the marketing execution, meaning not like project management, but really seeing like how things are being implemented. Are they being implemented with excellence? Are they, is everything like having an eagle eye and also a detailed eye? So we're like looking at the big picture, and then looking at the details and making sure it's delivering. So basically, and then of course we can work either with in-house teams if they have like 1 or 2 team members, and with our own resources or with our own team if they need help implementing. Oof. And then I think I already answered.
Yeah, I was going to say have a breather, but I'm about to ask you a question, so stay tuned. Let's see. Have you covered this? What is your process for identifying? Yeah, I guess you were actually just touching on that.
Yeah, exactly. I did. It is basically, where do we start? And if we're on a tight budget,
yeah,
I just let the client know that it's not possible to implement everything at once, and we'll work through implementation phases that may take a little longer to get to the results they want, but we're building the foundation. So making sure the client understands that we need to build a foundation before we get to to the surface, basically. So if the budget is tight, and of course sometimes there is an opportunity for a quick action or a quick campaign or something that can, that's growth marketing. That's actually one of my favorite areas. Is like, is there anything we can launch in a week that can potentially generate results, that can potentially bring in the first client, or 1 or 2 new clients to get the ball rolling, and then okay, that now deliver your best to those 2, to that 1 or to those 2, while with that extra revenue we can maybe take a bite and like grow a little bit more what we're doing. So that's the part that I really love. And how we work together, I think we covered that very, very well. Like COO and CMO are totally complementary. We enable sustainable growth when we align marketing and operations. So, example, a COO optimizes project management systems to support marketing campaigns, while the CMO ensure those campaigns drive high quality leads. I just said that actually with my example, previously. And then this one I love, I would love if that happened with most of my clients, is where the CMO builds a marketing process, or the team builds a marketing process, and then the COO or the operations team will help document the process and ensures that the team is implementing it accordingly. So this is basically how you see those 2 cooperating. I know we are over time, but well, we're recording, so let's finish. Let's go to the end. So I guess the collab challenge, I start up. So this is something I figured we could have some people jumping in if they wanted, but let's just see if we can just maybe brainstorm. A startup has a limited budget and needs to scale fast. How do marketing and operations work together to make that happen? So how would you, I think you'd be the driver of the train, as the COO, and how would you like approach that?
Well, what we need to know first, what's the goal? So let's see what is the goal and what are the resources available, right? Like how are we measuring, for starters? How are we measuring what we've already done and where we need to get to? And then, I guess, I don't know how granular we want to go, but I guess there's that strategic part. So what's the bigger picture goal? How are we breaking that down? And how can marketing, for example, like you've just said, what are those, not quick wins, but what are those like high impact things that we could maybe pull on immediately? But then even on a more granular level, what resources have we got? What are we currently using, and where can we optimize that? How can we be more efficient in the things that we're doing already? How can we use tech or AI or automations, or what skills have we got on the team where we can pull in together and analyze what we've already got, I guess do a bit of an audit of what we've got available to us, and then pass it over to the CMO and see what she has to say.
Yeah, definitely with that knowledge in mind, right? With all that information, I think it makes it easier to then, brainstorm what could we possibly launch that will generate results fast, right? Because I understand when you're in a GTM mode, like, okay, we have to go to market, we have to sell to validate our product, or, just to start generating some revenue. I understand the need to scale fast. And I also understand the limited budget. So, okay, here, now that we know everything we have, what can we do to provide value as fast as we can to our customers or to our prospective customers? And that's where I would start. Like, how can I add value to the first client or to the second client? And then there.
That time to value is key, and also the ability, keeping that agility. So let's not put all of our eggs in one basket. For example, especially if we've got a very limited budget, yes, we want to be able to put the most amount possible in for the biggest impact, but let's not tie ourselves into campaigns or initiatives that are going to wipe everything for the next 6 months. Like, we need to be quick. We need to be able to look at the data and pivot if we need to. So let's keep that in mind.
Absolutely. So I totally agree. And that's where the growth marketing, comes in. Growth marketing is actually about experimenting. Did it work? Yes, no. And then from there, we make the decision really quickly. And it's not about creating complex campaigns that require lots of integrations and automations and lots of resources and like the perfect design. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about just doing something quickly that can deliver value, even if it doesn't look the best. And then, build from there. And then after we've tested a little bit, we've seen what works and what didn't, what catches attention and what doesn't, then we can, okay, now maybe we should build a campaign, a more, cohesive and longer term campaign toward this direction because we tested it and we've seen that it works or it has potential. And then, of course, experimenting not only in one area. Although sometimes if the budget is really, really tight, we have to start with one. But this one will run for maybe 2 or 3 weeks and not like 6 months.
Yeah.
So, it's really quick how we can pivot from one to the other until we get to, a green flag.
And also from an operational point of view, just to make sure that, I mean, we don't know how young this startup is, but presuming that they have been around a little while perhaps and have tried some things, I think it's really important to take the blinkers off. And I think this is where fractional work comes in, that fresh pair of eyes, because maybe they have got initiatives running already. Maybe they have got a channel that, it's been there all along and it gets results now and again, and it's not breaking the bank. So we just kind of leave it running. Actually bringing that fresh pair of eyes in and saying, well, where's the data? Let's look at the data. We're not saying change everything immediately, but what I would want to do is just make sure that we are looking at the data for every single thing, every single spend and every single ROI. And it might be that for the next 6 months, we want to take something out of one channel, just to give this other channel a boost, right? It doesn't mean you're never going to go back to it, but I'm really keen to just not continually do the same things just because they've always been done. That would be like a thing that I'd want to look at too.
Absolutely. I agree with that. All right, so let's move forward because we still have maybe 2 slides to go. Well, I think I'll skip those questions and let people, if whoever is watching our recording, send us your questions if you have them. So how do you get started with fractional leadership? Okay, you realized you may need. So the first thing is identify leadership gaps, right? Assess the areas where your team or business lacks the expertise or bandwidth to scale effectively. So, if you have the CEO taking over, operations, and execution and team management and everything else, then, well, you may need an operations right hand, right?
Yeah.
If maybe you have maybe you even have like a marketing manager, for example, who is, maybe managing one or two other contractors, or maybe even team members or assistants. But it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to have that person also, understanding or seeing the big picture when they're so caught up in the day-to-day and managing the operations of marketing. And you realize that, okay, maybe I need a higher level or a leadership level to be actually talking to this person who will then manage the execution of the right things, right? So and then once you realize, okay, I need a COO, I need a CMO, a fractional one, set expectations. So, what do you expect as the scope, the goals, outcomes for the fractional leaders, engagement, and that is something that you don't need to do it alone. We're here for that. So, book a meeting.
Yeah.
That's why we take meetings. Your first meeting is for you to get to know us and to understand, can we help you define what you actually need from us? And that's our job, to help you define what you need from us, right? So you don't have to do it alone. I always tell my clients, I'm here to help you figure out what you need done in terms of marketing. I'm not here to just, if you're looking for an agency that will just do whatever you ask, I'm not the right person, right? You need an agency that will cost a lot less than we do, just to execute, to get things done. But then you're not getting that expertise, that leadership level that we're talking about, or that strategic level that we're talking about. Sometimes, of course, but most of the times, if you just want someone if you already have a marketing leader who knows what needs to be done, who is aligned with the company, then yes, go for an agency. But if you don't have that, and you're, the CEO who is on operations and marketing and telling marketing what to do, and then telling sales what to do, and then, well, then probably you do need a fractional CMO. And then build trust and frameworks. And that's where, communication, and it starts with booking a meeting and getting to know, Katie, getting to know myself, to actually see, okay, do we align in values? Is this a person I can trust to have a transparent communication, to have accountability with? Do I feel comfortable sharing my struggles, my challenges as a leader, and so on? So that's what we're here for. And then the frameworks that will help keep that accountability, and the check-ins, right, to align priorities, and that's what basically Katie comes to help you with. And then, well, questions. Again, I'm not getting into questions unless let me see, do we have we had Lisa who asked a question already. I don't know if you have any other, but thank you for joining us. I really hope that you could get holy data. Yeah. I'm really hoping you could, get some value from what we delivered today. Clarity on how we can help. Here's our contact. I will share this presentation with everyone that confirmed attendance. So you can click on those links and book a call with me, book a call with Katie, or connect with us on LinkedIn. It's really easy to connect with us and talk. And even if you're not sure if you need us, if you're not sure, it means you probably, have some sort of need. Then, let's talk and assess that together. We're not selling our services if we think you don't need us. Okay, we have one question here, and then I'll let Katie. You talked about it earlier, so I'll let you answer that one. When the clients are afraid of sharing their data. That's a great question.
Yeah, it is a great question. I think, well, I mean, there's a,
and it happens quite a lot sometimes.
It happens quite a lot, yeah. I mean, I guess, to be honest, the thing it comes down to is, I think the education piece and the trust piece. Again, it's about relationship building. You know, I think the previous question, this question here, what advice would you give to founders that are reluctant to give away day to day? You're the one blocking yourself. Like, I am quite straightforward with this kind of thing. If you want help, or you think you want help, and you need my help, then we need to do certain things that are going to get you to where you want to be. I understand that it's scary. I understand that, you know, it's personal and it's private, a lot of the things, but it really comes down to the relationship and the trust issue with me. I'm a very transparent and open person, and I want to make people feel as safe and as comfortable as possible. I mean, there'll be, you know, NDAs or like the contracts that we spoke about earlier that could be signed, but it really is just an educational piece of how do we know what we're doing if we can't measure the data? You know, data shouldn't make all of the decisions for us. There's always going to be a human nuance to it, but it should be a guiding light. And without that, what are we even doing? So I don't really know. You said that I touched on it before, but I don't know if I did, because I don't really know any other way to answer it other than to say I really would just try to educate and gain trust, and you know, make the client aware that we are a partnership. It is a co-creation. You know, like you said, we're not order takers, and I wouldn't want to work with that with somebody, and I wouldn't want a client to feel like that with me. It's literally a co-creation. So it's really about the relationship, about having a joint vision, and working on that together. And to do that, we need to do certain things like show me your data.
Yeah, I think even the most sensitive data, like financial data, for example, is something that, you know, I see that quite a lot. And yeah, as Katie said, like that's where, you know, the contracts come in. It's like, or an NDA, like it's the same thing as if you were signing with an employee. We're also taking, you know, responsibility for what we sign. So, you know, and she already, you know, I totally agree with what she said about educating and building trust, and knowing that we, you know, we're here to help your business grow, and for that we do need access to data and to information to make that happen. We can't do it without knowing, you know, where we're at. So yeah, data is just one of the many indicators that we can use, but it's the major one. Yes, absolutely. I mean, we're on the blind if we don't have data. We're working on the blind, basically. So, you know, sharing data is, I mean, there are ways that you can share data without, you know, sometimes we do need the full access, like the full, you know, admin view for some things, like Google Analytics, for example. Yes, we can start with lower levels, but eventually if we're implementing things, we also need, you know, the admin access to it. But most of the times there are ways for you to protect your accounts. And I'm always happy to share with my clients, okay, here's how you can protect your account from me.
Yeah.
You know, or from anyone that you'd like. So, and okay, no, here, you know, either you create a user for me and you pay an extra seat, or I need your access, right? So if you really want to protect the data and you think that's really too sensitive, then, well, you know, there are ways. It's just that sometimes it has a cost as well. So anyway, just to know that there, you know, and the more open the client is about that reluctancy, it's like, it's easier for us to find a solution, to help you find a solution. So yeah. Awesome. So I think we're getting to the end.
Yeah.
Wow. An hour and 30 minutes, Katie.
We have a lot to say.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you Wow, very much. It has been a great chat with you. It's been great to have you, sharing your perspective and seeing how much we can actually partner up and complement each other's work as well. But just knowing, having that clarity also, it really helped me to have the clarity on how, operations can help marketing. And I'll definitely be looking at that, with my clients. Is like, oh, hey, do you have an operations person? Because that could make a difference as well, And so
Yeah,
really,
for sure. It's been great. Thank you so much. And thanks for everyone joining in the interaction. And really just feel free to reach out like you mentioned. It's not about, having to work together or any kind of commitment. It's literally my favorite subject. So if anyone wants to talk about it from either a client point of view or an operator's point of view, or feel free to reach out. I'm always available on LinkedIn. I love having these kind of conversations. So thank you so much, Fernanda, for hosting this and for inviting me and for instigating it. It's been really great.
Awesome. So thank you very much, Katie. And well, I'll be running more of these with other guests as well. So everyone is welcome to join and to join this network that we're building of professionals who have great things to share, just as Katie. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.